be here. You know, I see it's called potluck, and Father Billy decided to get an Italian for some Italian potluck. You know, I think it's kind of interesting because I'm at St. Jude's down on North Rampart, the shrine there, and we're having a novena right now also. And it's a time of prayer, and all of you are coming with your own needs, your own special prayers and intentions. And I read this once. I thought it's really good. It goes like this. It says, "Thank God that God doesn't use voicemail." Imagine if God used voicemail. This is what you would hear. "Hello, welcome to God's house. If you have a prayer request, press 1. For a prayer of thanks, press 2. For a complaint, press 3. For all other requests, press 4. I'm sorry, but all of our angels are busy with other customers. Please hold on, and your call will be answered in the order in which they have been received. If you'd like to speak to the angel Gabriel, press 1. For the angel Michael, press 3. If you would like to find out if one of your loved ones is in heaven, please press 3, followed by their social security number, followed by the pound key. Now, I'm going to find Father Billy's social security number because later we're going to figure out if he made it to heaven. It goes on. I'm sorry, but we noticed you are already called once today. You called once today. Please hang up and call tomorrow. Our computers are down today. Please call back later. Our office is closed for the weekends. Please call on Monday after 9 o'clock. Aren't you glad that God doesn't use voicemail? And here at St. Anne's Novena, you could lift up your prayers and he's going to hear them. He really is. I thought it's very interesting that the gospel we read today, Jesus is asked, "Who's your mother?" And I always thought that was strange, because if I was to say, "Who's my mother would hit us in the head. You know, who's my mother? Who's my brothers? Who's my sisters?" Well, he doesn't mean that the way we took it. What he was really saying, if you want to have a relationship with me, if you want to become one part of my family, only one thing you have to do the will of my Father. And so today we are called part of his family, if each day we strive and try to do his will. We really don't know much about St. Anne. There's nothing in Scripture, nor St. Joachim. But it was in the 150 AD that a tradition started to develop that these were the parents of Mary. And then by the 13th century, there was a book called The Golden Legends that spread the story of Anne throughout the Western Church. So we don't know much about her, but we know one thing. Mary had a mother, and her name was Anne. And like any mother and any grandmother, we honor her. Oh, you had to know my grandmother. Woo! She was great. Raised 11 children, 26 grandchildren. And she prayed for us every day. And she'd always say to us, "Don't you ever forget your last name. Because if you go out and some trouble happens, that name's going to come back to me." I always remember that. She was such a beautiful person. And so we honor today our grandmothers as we honor St. Anne. And my grandmother taught us something beautiful, that no matter what you're going through, God is with you. Never forget that. And I'd like to share for a few moments a title that I feel is important during this novena: How to Find Peace in the Midst of Chaos. I am sure a lot of you have had moments of chaos. If you haven't, be patient. Don't worry. It'll find you. Well, I teach at the University of Holy Cross in Algiers, and I remember in 2005 we started classes in August, and then the weekend came and we knew there was going to be a hurricane. We didn't know how bad it was going to be, and we never got back to school until the end of January. And they were all different students that I had from the beginning, and I asked the students, "How did you get through Katrina?" And this girl, she was a freshman, I can still remember, she raised her hand. And she says, "The book of Job." Oh, I I thought that was interesting for a freshman girl in college. I says, what do you mean? She says, my father taught us when we were growing up, if you ever go through a tough time, read the book of Job. Job lost his family, his job, his health, his friends, and everybody said, Job, get rid of this God thing in your life. He says, no, my God will take me through this. And at the end, he was blessed 4 times more. And so, if you're going through anything, read the book of Job. But today, I'd like to share how to get through some of the chaos of life. And there's a few different points. First of all, and I'm convinced of it, it's through our faith. I don't know how anybody gets through anything in life without a strong faith. And I'm going to give you an example of this. There's a woman that I visit and bring communion to. Her name, I call her Mama Jerry. Her name is Jerlene. She's 97 years old and she's completely blind. And she lives by herself. Now her neighbors are the most beautiful people. They go to her every day, make sure she's gotten food, and Now this woman, she says to me every time I come home, every time I come to her house, she says, I walk by faith, not by sight. And one day I said to the people, she lives by herself. She says, I do not live by myself. Jesus lives with me. And I'll tell you, she knows every single saint, New Orleans saint. She listens to that radio, and I'll tell you, as soon as they get a touchdown, no joke, this is true, the telephone rings and she goes, who dat let the dogs out, and she hangs up. Well, every year my confirmation class gives her a party. This past year, we gave her a beautiful teddy bear. She thinks it's a rabbit, but that's okay. And I called her after the party and I said, Mama Jerry, how did you like your party? Oh, she said, it's wonderful. She says, I just got out of bed, but she named the teddy bear Father Tony. She says, but Father Tony's still in bed. I said, oh my God. I says, Mama Jerry, don't call it Father Tony. Call it baby. She calls it Baby Tony now. But she loves the saints, and she got to know Deuce McAllister. And for her birthday, he sent her a Saints football. God bless you, Mama Jerry. Love, Deuce. The other day she called me. This is true. She says, I want you to promise me that when I die, I get buried with Deuce McAllister and Father Tony. Now that was a really encouraging. But the thing that I feel is that she has such faith. I tell people, if you're feeling down, call me. I'll bring you to see Mama Jerry. You lift it up. She walks by faith, not by sight. The second thing I'd like to share, how you could get through some of the chaos of life, is what my mother taught me. My parents were born in Sicily. I'm not mafia, don't worry. But my mother taught us a word. Every student that I've ever had knows this word. It's an Italian word, a Sicilian word. It's a little different in Italy, Italian dialect. The word is spugare. Spugare means let it out. When you're going through a tough time, talk to someone. Get it out of your system. Otherwise, if you keep it within yourself, it gets out of proportion. And so I tell everybody, say spugare. Everybody, spugare. Don't forget it. Even an Irishman can say spugare. With a little brogue to it. I don't know how it would go. Spugare. The next is live in the present. I really believe it. There's a wonderful book by Eckhart Tolle. It's called The Power of Now. He said that most of us spend most of our energy living in the past and worrying about the past and worrying about the future. We never enjoy the present moment. This is the only moment I have. And the person who taught me this the most is my mother. My mother for 7 years had Alzheimer's. She didn't remember the past. She couldn't think about the future, but she loved the present moment when she saw family. Oh, she was so excited. And I tell you a little story about her. Every day, I would take her out of the nursing home that was across the school street from the college that I was teaching in Buffalo, New York. That's my hometown. You could probably tell a little accent. And I would take her out. And as soon as I would get her out, she'd say, is it my birthday today? Every day. And the reason why she said that was that when we were children, my dad would take us to a friend of his who had an ice cream parlor. And he would allow us to make our own banana splits. Ooh, they were the biggest banana splits you could ever imagine. My mother remembers that. So every day I'd say, "Mom, yeah, it's your birthday." And we'd go for ice cream. Not in the winter, but ice cream. And you know, when on your birthday you feel good, you know? And that's how she felt, because she enjoyed the present moment. And everybody loved her because she was always happy. Now I know there's different types of Alzheimer's and the way people live through it. But my mom was blessed with that. She taught me, live in the present moment. Don't worry and stress out about the past and the future. I only have today. The next is when you're stressed. How many of us go through stress? I bet every single one of you have moments of stress. Spell stressed backwards. First, S-T-R-E-S-S-E-D. If you spell it backwards, it's desserts. Think about that the next time you're stressed. Now, I'll tell you where I go, and I don't want to make an advertisement for them, but it's my favorite place, Brocado's. Oh, you've been there, huh? And I go so often that when I first arrived here, I was going weekly. And this little high school girl said to me one day, I didn't have a collar on. She says, "Weren't you just here?" I said, "You know, I'm a twin, and my brother comes." I'm not a twin. But she said, "What's your name?" I said, "Tony." She says, "What's your brother's name?" I said, "Anthony." Do you know she never made the connection? Every time I would come in, she'd say, "Are you Tony?" "Yeah." "Are you Anthony?" "Yeah." Finally, she found out I was a priest and a liar, but that's okay. And the next is to live a balanced life. I had a wonderful professor in the seminary teaching us counseling. He says everybody needs to have a balanced life. He says we're like a wheel, and we're in the middle of that wheel, and there's 5 spokes, and each spoke represents a part of our life. One is sleeping, rest, eating, working, recreation, and spiritual. Whenever I don't feel balanced, so one of those areas is on a joint. For example, if everything's balanced in your life, your wheel goes woo, 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 woo. But if you have one area, maybe you're overeating, you're not sleeping enough, or you're oversleeping, or you're working too much, or you're not paying attention to the spiritual part of your life, your wheel goes like this. So take a look at your life. Is there any area that has to be balanced a little bit? Is there any area that we're overworking or oversleeping, overeating, over whatever it might be? He told us that when people have a balanced life, it goes so much more smoothly. And so today, what I wanted to share is that we're all called to somehow find peace. That's what Jesus said to us. "Peace I leave you." And peace doesn't mean, he says, like the world thinks. Peace means that I know that God's with me. Just as Mama Jerry taught me that. God is with me. I'm going to get through it. That whole first reading with Moses. Moses never saw the face of God when he went up to the mountain. He saw him in the cloud on his back. And it made me think of something. When we are going through tough times, look back. If you look back in your life, God was there. He got me through it. I love the 23rd Psalm. "Even if I walk in a dark valley, I fear no evil. You are with me to give me strength." Many of us go through dark valleys. Some of you might be going through it right now. He didn't say you won't go through a dark valley. He says, "I'll give you the strength to know I'm with you." And if he's with me, then I know I can make it. And finally, I love this passage. "Come to me, all of you who labor and are heavy burdened, and I'll give you strength." He doesn't say, "Come to me and you'll never have a problem." No. He says, "I'll give you the strength to get through it." My prayer for all of you during this novena is that God will give you the strength and the peace that all of you all need today and always. God bless you, and don't forget, Spugari. Amen.